If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. It's free. There's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Smile, baby. Welcome to Refuge of Love. This podcast comes to you from Delaware. I'm Tracy, Senior Pastor of Refuge of Love Ministries. And I just want to provide to you a comfortable space, a place to run into God's love and find destiny and purpose. If you haven't heard it today, I love you. Smile, baby. Hey, guess what? I love you. More importantly, God loves you. I'm glad to be here another year. I thank God for you. I thank God that you're here. Wherever you are, whoever you are, you're still here. This year, I feel like that means so much more to so many people. You're still here. I thank God for opportunities. I thank God for life, health, and strength. I pray that God heals and touches wherever you hurt. This past year has come and gone so fast. In some areas, it seemed like it would just never end. We should have felt within ourselves an awakening, an alarm to get things right, to get things in perspective and in order. The present truth that you could be here today and gone tomorrow has played right in front of our faces. Celebrities and loved ones, one and the same, taking their last breath without any real moment's notice. We've got more problems than we've got money right now. Some folk are trusting and leaning on the government hard instead of looking to God. How many of you found yourself looking and finding people to help you instead of relying on your Father, instead of relying on your source? You found yourself calling on others instead of calling on your Father. When it hits the fan, when it's about to go down, is it your truth that God is in control or your struggle? How you go through what you get to go through is so important. You can't just go through the motions of being careless with your actions or words. Each and every move you make, it needs to be on and with purpose. On and with purpose. How you make it through your process is just as important as praying as you're going through it. Yes, you got to stay in contact with your Father as you're going through it. You got to keep that communication going. But on your end, you got to be found working. You got to use what's at your hands. Stay busy. You can't be sulking or complaining, talking about what you do or don't have, talking about the opportunities that others have that you didn't. Especially if you haven't lifted a finger at all. If you're not doing anything, you have to be found working. Each and every obstacle you faced, each struggle, each trial, was something thrown at you because God knew you can handle it. Irregardless of how ugly your struggle has been, irregardless of how ugly some scenes have played before you, gain strength in knowing it was handpicked for you. Not to destroy you, but because you could conquer it. It's easy to put a smile on a child's face with their favorite gift, their favorite toy, with or without permission. I used to love going to school as a kid with something new. A new toy, new clothes, especially if it came from my father. It wasn't always show and tell. I didn't always have permission. It wasn't always my day. But I just had to show off what my daddy did for me. I would take the risk of losing it all. Take the risk of it being taken. And if the teacher wasn't in the room if the teacher was out the room long enough, I was bold enough to take it back. Just to say, look what my daddy did for me. I was the best thing smoking if my father thought of me and knocked my socks off with a jersey. He's a sports fanatic and he can always pick the right teams. Can you have that same enthusiasm, that same joy, that same happiness if you gotta work through some rapping to get to your gift? What if it's a gift that takes a while for you to master? What if it's a gift you feel like you're not worthy of? Or a gift you feel like you don't need? How about if he shows you that gift, then he gives you chores and stipulations before you can receive and operate in that gift? Each and every obstacle you face is designed to bring out a gift that God already placed inside of you, designed to conquer whatever it is that you're facing. It's already inside of you. You already have it. All of our overwhelming events this past year alone, all the things we've seen in front of us, all the things we heard about, all the things that have happened just right around us, and we're still here, blessed and alive, breathing. Senseless killings around us, inequality still being displayed in some of our faces. This pandemic is still affecting our lives. Some were sick and others didn't know just how sick you were. Death was knocking with an all-access pass, but God stepped in. How often have you yourself been in that cycle where frustration's high, anger's high, failure's high, giving up is high? But you got that testimony of but God. You're the quarterback on your favorite team, and one of your linemen, one of the ones that's out there that's supposed to be protecting you, he misses a block. You've got a defensive tackle now. He's heading for you, full steam ahead, ready to knock your socks off, ready to put you on your back, ready to stop whatever progress you're throwing for. Right before he gets to you, he slips. But God, the pressure's on thick. It's getting hard to breathe. You got decisions to make. You want to quit. Right before you do, right before you throw in the towel. But God, you don't know how he do it. You don't know how he did it. But God, though this past year's been rocky, it's been blinding, it's been hard to see your way, you've been knocked off course, your schedule, the way you said things were going to go, yeah, that got delayed too. You yourself may have just given up, tired of the hits and attacks day after day. How many today can admit you gave up on yourself a few times last year? But God, there He go again, stepping up, stepping in, coming through. Your Father stepped in and picked you up. He brought you out when the way seemed impossible. We serve a God, we have a Father who can and will do the unthinkable, the almost impossible. He's willing to do all that just for you. He's willing to do all that but fail. Our Father can take anything and make it into something. What man throws away as trash is God's treasure waiting to shine. Romans 8:28 brings a huge point. We read it, we quote it, but do we really feel it? Do we really know it? The verse brings a point. But do we really see it? We say it, but do we really live it? We say it, but do we really see it? We quote it as we try to evangelize others and encourage others. But do we really feel it ourselves? Are you preaching what you practice, what you know? I hope to prove and show to you today through Joseph, a person like many of us, a person pushed to the extreme in his life early, introduced to some unthinkable things. How many today, that's your story? Early on, you were introduced to some unthinkable things. But like Joseph, you didn't fold. Early on this year, some crazy stuff happened to you to disrupt your everything. But you're still here. You didn't give up. So don't give up now. I know it's rough. People still coming against you. Soon as God gives you a behind-the-scenes sneak peek into your future, trouble comes along. Soon as you get your fire back, people come and try to blow you out. You don't necessarily have to do anything but wake up. And some people just can't stand you. Things just seem to happen that cause you to want to go back to bed and try again another day. And for some of us, during this pandemic, going back to bed is easy. Staying up and fighting is hard. I've come to encourage someone today. In spite of all you faced and experienced, don't give up. Don't give in. Change for the better. Change is inevitable. But don't change and become bitter. Make each and every situation, each and every decision with and on purpose. Don't be random because random things keep happening to you. Don't allow your situations and circumstances to change you. You change them. Again, Romans 8:28. Romans 8:28. And we know that God works all things together for the good of those who love Him, who are called according to His purpose. Those who are walking in His design, those who remain faithful when it all looked strange, those who kept believing when it seemed like it all just went dry. Your faith went dry. Your household went dry. Your resources dried up. All that seemed tangible just seemed like it just went out of reach, was sent out of reach. Seemed like things you could hold on to just became brittle. But you held on. You remain true. You made it. And you're making it when no one believed you could. But God. And we know, not because we've been told it, but we've experienced it for ourselves. God works all things together, good or bad, for the good of those who love him, who are called according to his purpose. Joseph, the son of Jacob, he saw early on that God can take you from the pit to the palace. He can start you off in the palace. You could fall in the pit. He could still find you. He could do anything he's big enough to do. God is in control. Your Father is in control. Not us or our troubles. He could bring you out. If he's shining through you, regardless of how dirty your situation may be, if you love him and if you let him, he can shine. Everything works out. I don't care how it looks. The darkest of beginnings can come out so beautiful. You can get up after the hardest of falls. No pit the enemy digs for you will be deep enough to keep God from you. No grave you dig for yourself can keep God, your Father, from you. He's just that good. He can't be tripped up or locked out. There's no situation he's not hearing and willing to work out for you. Joseph learned in his walk, in his process, that you can't hold people to their lowest point, their last mistake, the last time they hurt you. We serve a forgiving God, and he expects us to be the same. Forgiving. He expects love from us. He expects us to be just and kind and merciful. You can't be consumed by your last disappointments, looking to be filled with God. You can't be deliberately weighed down, deliberately holding to stuff you got no business holding on to sins, holding on to your shortcomings, deliberately holding on to things people have already apologized for. You can't be holding on to all that, holding on to your guilt, and looking to be free at the same time. One got to give. Some got to go. God has the final say concerning all of us. And there's not one of us that can condemn any of us. But you have to be striving for better, to be better, to be better, to do better, to look better, to have better. You can't hold on to yesterday's bad news and bad times while reaching for tomorrow's success. I like a good action movie, something with a hero, and they have a greater good that they're fighting for. Every good story has a hero and a villain. Your story wouldn't be great if you didn't have something that you were coming up against, something that you end up overpowering. If you wasn't fighting against something, would you appreciate all that you gained, all that you've conquered through your struggles? Some stories, it's hard to tell who's who in the beginning. As the story goes on and the plot thickens, which one will you end up being in the story? Do you have a greater good that you're fighting for, or are you looking for destruction? When it comes to God, just because you started out one way, that doesn't mean that's how it's going to end up for you. That doesn't mean that's how it's going to finish. There's some good stories where the bad guy has a change of heart and ends up helping to save the day. Mortal enemies decide to let bygones be bygones just to save the day, just to save the village that they both love. Two people who couldn't agree on anything. Letting stuff go, willing to see past everything for the greater good. They let go of hate and desires of revenge to work together. Joseph started out on the good end of his story. He was his father's favorite son. He had a position of leadership at an early age. At age 17, he's being groomed to stand out from his siblings. He's dreaming dreams. God is showing himself to him early on, showing that his family is going to be bowing to him, interpreting position and influence and authority. He supervises his older brothers. How many of y'all like being told what to do by your little sister or little brother? He's supervising his older siblings. And he's reporting back to his father. He's already living a life fast-tracking him to success. With great power comes great responsibility and an equal amount of haters. People are just mad because you're you. Because you do whatever it is that you do. You may not even know exactly what it is that you do, but you do it, baby. Joseph was mocked for his dreams, disliked because of how he's loved. Early on, he's hit with a hard truth. You can't always share everything that God showed you with everyone presently around you. Some things God shows you is not for right now. It's for a different time, a different place in your life. And some folks just ain't gonna be there. Early on, God is showing them these truths. People and connections, seasons, they change. The very people he felt he could be himself with didn't even want him around. They see him from a distance coming to work one day, and they plot to kill him. They plot to kill him. They were going to kill their brother. Family see your potential from a distance, and they want to mock and ridicule you. They want to change you sometimes. They want to talk about what your hand picked to do, what you like to do. They pick on you because you're different from them. Family could care less sometimes, and they cared less whether he lived or died, let alone had a proper burial. Parents, be careful with displaying favoritism among your children. Children, be confident in your relationship with your parents. People make mistakes. Parents don't get a rule book. They don't get it all right. They don't have it all together. They're trying to figure this thing out as you're growing and trying to figure it out too. Don't hold it against your parents, the mistakes. Don't hold it against your siblings, the mistakes your parents make. Don't hold all that against others. Jealousy attempted to lead these brothers down a life-taking path, a path of no return. Emotionally wrapped up in a moment, willing to risk it all, even their future. The eldest brother, Reuben, he reasoned with his co-conspirators, his siblings, and they threw Joseph into a pit. One moment, Joseph was reporting for duty, doing what he's supposed to do, doing what's asked of him. The next, his dream seemed to be more like a nightmare. Sold by his brothers into slavery for something around $200. Could you imagine disliking someone so bad you'd sell them for $1? You see all that they have to give, offer, and provide, and you still don't deem them worthy. we're quick to place a person's value in an amount, in a moment, in what we see that they physically have. We think that we have a bond with certain people because we're family, because we've been through certain things with each other, regardless of differences. We feel like there's still a bond. And in Joseph's case, and in some of our cases, we're still left alone. We still feel like we're alone, looking up at the very people that's been looking down on our very existence. Dark times can help make you. If you're not focused, they can destroy you. It's hard to see the good when you're sitting in the pit. It's hard to see your dreams still coming true when you're sitting within your struggles, surrounded by walls you didn't even build, designed to keep you, to stunt you, not to help you grow. It's hard seeing your way out when there's a bunch of clutter and when there's disarray. You can't allow the distractions to do what they're designed to do. You have to recognize that they are exactly just that, distractions. It's hard, but you got to look past the clutter. They're on their job. Are you? Joseph stayed on the job. Joseph's pit wasn't to death. He ends up in slavery, a hardship he didn't ask for, he didn't sign up for, he didn't see coming. And all that he was able to see, he didn't see this coming. How many times this year alone, something came your way you didn't sign up for, you didn't see? How many times did you have to adapt and change? Can any of us be bold enough to say some things we've seen this year that God allowed, with God being all in it, we still didn't ask for it and didn't want it? This year has made you rethink and reinvent who you are. Did you see yourself where you are now? Some things came along and caused you to question, did you even hear God say what he said? Others, even with these dark clouds glooming, were able to shine during this time and found some of the newness that they never knew was in them. They had it tucked away, waiting for a moment like this. Reinvention and upgrading has been the goal this past year. Diamonds have been popping out of masked caves. We would have never knew what we had in us if it wasn't for this time. You can't allow what the distractions are designed to do be successful. You can't allow it to happen. This year has been full of distractions, but you still got so much more left in you. Regardless of the prison you feel you may be in, regardless of the hurt you feel like you just can't get over, you still got more left in the tank. Your gift will make room for you. God will make room for you. Even when people accuse you of ugly things, people put labels and schisms on you, you haven't been what they're accusing you of. Remember, even when it seems like it and feels like you haven't been forgotten, be like Joseph. He had some ugly times. He had some ugly experiences. He was subjected to slavery and servitude when he was groomed for leadership. He was groomed for differently. He remained true to who he was. He remained true to the design. He stayed consistent to who God said he was. He stayed consistent to who his father groomed him to be. And though he was viewed as property, the gem, the jewel that God planted in him still shined. It outshined his situations and circumstances. Have you ever been there in that situation when everything's against you? It went against what you groomed. You in situations that you had to say to yourself, if my mama only knew I was here right now, she'd kill me. He was accused of crimes he never committed, stripped and humiliated yet even again, thrown into prison. But the jail couldn't keep him. It couldn't stop him, and it couldn't stop God. Joseph's new condition didn't interrupt his connection and atmosphere. He stayed his course, even with being forgotten by those he lent a hand to. Joseph's in prison, interpreting dreams. Dreams are coming true. People telling him, hey, I got your back. I'm going to look out for you once it happens for me, once I make it. But eventually, he's forgotten for a time. Even when it feels like you've been forgotten, you still got to stay working. You can't quit early because it looks like your time is up. You can't change who you are because you're about to clock out for the day. You got to stay consistent and stay true. Even with adversity, he didn't dim his light. He took advantage of opportunities given. And when Joseph's name was called, he knew how to clean up and put on a presentation. At some point, it's going to come a time where you got to clean yourself up and show what you got. Show what's been given, what's been planted. One of those favors finally came back to Joseph, and it got him in front of the king. He never knew it was going to happen. You never know where your kindness may take you. You never know just how far one moment of truth and love will take you. You never know whose life you're saving by sticking around and holding on, even when it looks like and feels like you should quit. Even with the detours and all his dreams still came true. His discipline led him to the front of a line he wasn't even competing to be in. His dreams came true suddenly. I could imagine all the hardships seeming like a lifetime away after just one conversation with the Pharaoh. Hurts and struggles seeming like were lifetimes ago. Then that defensive tackle is right back for round 2. And he actually smacks you this time. It feels like a car accident when his past walks in the room. One of the dreams he was allowed to interpret caused the very ones who threw him away to be right back in his presence again. He had a moment that a lot of us dream about. You plan all this get back and revenge for when you get to see that jive turkey again that did you wrong. And it actually happens for Joseph. He gets the ultimate I told you so moment so many of us dream about. You wake up in a cage or cycle you didn't sign up for. You've been hurt by someone and you dream of the glorious day to say, I told you so. You dream about get back. You dream about telling the folk that told you you would never be to say, here I am. Maybe that's why your dreams aren't happening. Maybe that's why they're not coming true. You're consumed dreaming about the wrong stuff. God has provided you dreams and plans of success, but you've held on to the nightmares of before. You got dreams and goals for 21, but you're reluctant to move forward in them because of all the stuff that happened in 2020. Look how long you've been on this earth. Who can admit they've allowed bad seasons to snuff out seeds planted years ago? But all things work out for them who love God. And when they work out, whose dreams and seeds will you be allowing to grow and to thrive? The ones planted by your father, or the deceitful, misguided ones that were never meant to be? They were sent your way to test you, some even to help you, but never to stick around and stop you, forever controlling you. All that you've already endured has made you strong, and situations have made you unrecognizable to the very ones that thought they knew you. The very ones that threw you away don't even know you anymore. The brothers didn't even know it was Joseph sitting up there. Years have passed, maturity has set in, and he didn't look like what he's been through. He went from the pit to the prison to second command in the palace. When Joseph got his moment, God gave him a little room to test his brothers, to see if change really took place. But he still had to get things right. He knew how tricky his family could be. So he had to see if time did change some things, if time did heal some wounds, if he can trust them again. He also had to make sure his family was okay. He was hard on them for a little bit, played a little games with them, just to see where their hearts were. Even when he wanted to be hard, compassion moved within him. He still had moments where he had to break. He was no longer at his lowest point, and his high and mighty brothers had been made lowly. You never know what people go through and what God takes people through while you're not around. Just like you don't want your process downplayed, don't disregard others. Remember, villains can have a change of heart. Some folk, regardless of how evil and ugly they started out, eventually they have to see the greater good and make a choice for good or destruction. Joseph could have ignored all that. He could have had a hard heart. He could have made the choice to be cold. He could have looked out for those who looked out for him instead. But he held on to the dream until the dream came true. He made it to seeing dreams planted years ago blooming and blossoming. All that his father instilled in him, all that his heavenly Father revealed to him, he saw it come true. He saw his family again, old faces and new faces, a bigger family, a bigger amount of responsibility, and he was able to handle it. Joseph had a few 2020s along his way in his time, but he survived. God gave him a strategy that didn't just save him, he saved everybody. And we know that God works all things together for the good of those who love him, who are called according to his purpose. Smile, baby. He worked it out. All of it. He worked it out for you. He's worked it out this far, and he still got you. Good or bad times, he's there. Those who were supposed to protect you may fall or may fail, but God. The pits can't hold you. The lies won't slow you up. The distractions won't last long. He's in control. And you will be and do all that you're designed and groomed to do. No one is bad enough to stop you or God. Remain humble. Stay true and compassionate and consistent through your process. I love you. Smile, baby. Refuge is here for you. Shoot us an email at refugeof302@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter at refugelove. We love to hear from you. You can find us on Pandora, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Anchor, or any platform you enjoy listening to. This beat is produced by 45 Beats. Follow him on IG at FOFIVE Beats. This episode was brought to you by In Between Logistics. They're a local moving company in Delaware. They also specialize in junk removal. Follow them on IG at IBL_LLC for all your moving needs. Smile, baby.